Some people want more parental responsibility in society, others want the state to lend more of a hand. It's a debate. Yes, Britain already has a large welfare state by world standards. When articles say children will go hungry, that's probably not true in the sense that you're suddenly going to have millions of children crawling around the dirt with distended bellies and stick-thin limbs as they slowly die. However, usually in a first world context, child hunger on a large scale means some kind of malnutrition according to a nutritionally complete diet. We do have data on malnutrition, and although the numbers remain small, deaths and primary admissions have seen small rises, and for cases where malnutrition was secondary to another reason for admission, there has been a steady rise since the 2007 financial crisis. The death rates have to be adjusted for an ageing population, of course. Many malnutrition deaths are to do with the elderly. In 59% of deaths relating to malnutrition in 2016, the primary diagnosis was pneumonia. 29% of death certificates mentioned old age or frailty. The Office of National Statistics keeps information on this, which is where you can find these figures, but it's only been relatively recently that good data has been recorded, and even then it's incomplete. What's also true is that free school meals aren't the only form of support that goes towards feeding children via support for parental finances, so working out how many children will really go hungry because of the recent policy change in specific is quite difficult. It seems a lot of difficulty is caused by families getting into debt, which would be an issue handled separately. It's also the case that the policy comprises not the end of free school meals per se, but simply the refusal of an extension to the existing programme through the half-term holidays. Still, even if we assume the heartlessness of the policy is overblown for a moment, and it might not be, only statistics that have yet to truly materialise can show that, on a purely tactical level it is a mind-blowingly stupid move for Conservatives to reach for the personal responsibility script during a pandemic, especially when they've already given so much money to help up to now. Why was this last little bit unacceptable when it has such a large amount of emotional resonance, and Boris has clearly been trying to shed the nasty party image and fund the North? The government isn't arguing over huge amounts of money here. Every little counts, yes, but if we went by this logic and we were concerned about government debt as a priority during a pandemic, when it should be an extremely low priority right now, then even in that case you'd have to consider everything that costs way more than school meals. We're talking about millions here. It's hard to pin down the exact cost, but even the massive extension to the programme Labour was calling to, and which obviously we didn't get, wouldn't have broken £1 billion. In this case, by some estimates, since we're talking about cancelling a half-term extension for the existing programme, we were arguing over a paltry 20 million. If you were already willing to pay up to that point, then for purely PR reasons during a pandemic, it'd be wise to let that one go by and save your fiscal conservative instincts for the things that actually matter. The foreign aid budget alone is estimated to top 14 billion by next year. There's a lot of fat to cut that isn't so emotionally charged. Even with foreign aid, you could easily argue that while we have compassion for foreign countries, blah blah blah, conciliatory political language, that under the circumstances of a pandemic we can afford to cut a small portion from foreign aid to keep British children well fed without their already struggling parents having to pay, and it would probably resonate with ordinary people. That's a nationalist policy that is simultaneously revenue neutral, so keeps fiscal conservatives happy, and it outmanoeuvres Labour by forcing them to choose between taking a tiny amount off what we give to the world and feeding Britain's children over the holidays, and thus laying their cards on the table. And that's even assuming we need to be stingy in the first place, which can surely wait, so this is layered stupidity. Even if you hold all the exact same values and goals, and we allow for children to not really go hungry, their chosen decision is pretty dumb. Learn to PR. It's a lot more about how the policy looks than anything else, because your average person isn't going to factor in that the government already did extensions for earlier holidays and that other forms of help are already being provided to local councils to help with food. They're simply going to hark back to Margaret Thatcher milk snatcher, and that's that.